Tom Nelson with the Minnesota State Patrol. I supervise the commercial vehicle inspectors in the St. Cloud area as well as the Brainerd area. Please, I don't know all the answers, you know. All you guys have supervisors, and I know what probably most of you think about your supervisors, right? Okay, I'm a supervisor. We're taking down the phone number. I office in St. Cloud. If I can't answer something here, call me, leave a voicemail, and I'll get right back to you. It's kind of ironic, you know, rural water. And, maybe some of you are wondering why they hold this in St. Cloud. St. Cloud evidently has very, very good water, because I've done these presentations before, like at the Holiday Inn and stuff, and usually at day 2, the next morning, these guys are drinking water like you wouldn't believe it. I gotta believe it. I gotta believe it because they got good water. So, and I also gotta tell you, it's natural to have questions, okay? It's, you know, not everybody knows everything. As a matter of fact, the other day my daughter came to me and she said, "Dad, you know, where do we come from?" And I'm like, "Well, you know, I got a 2-year Alex Tech degree." And I told her, I said, "Well, you know," I said, "you know, you read the Bible, right? You know, Adam and Eve, God created heaven and earth, Adam and Eve, they had kids, blah, blah, blah. Basically, we're descendants of God." Well, she didn't believe me. So she went and talked to my wife, who's a 4-year St. Ben's grad. And, "Mom, Dad says that, you know, we're descendants of God. Is that true? Is that where we come from?" And she says, "No, Madison. You know, it's the theory of evolution. You know, basically, you know, we were water mammals or animals, became land animals, and then we started walking upright. Basically, it's a theory of evolution." She got a little confused and came back to me and said, "Dad, you know, you say that we're descendants of God. Mom says that we evolved from primates. Who's right?" And I said, "Well, Madison, obviously I'm talking about my side of the family. Your mom's talking about I just want to say, though, if there's any females in the room, my wife, she's in school of finance, and when she puts on presentations, she says the same thing, but she turns it around." Okay. First of all, I'm going to go over some basic definitions here. CDLs. Wow, you guys know what a CDL is. I didn't put this together. I stole it from somebody. Medical certificate. It's kind of funny because you deal with a lot of local landscapers and stuff in the summer times that they hire college kids, and they don't realize when that combination is over 10,000, it's deemed to be a commercial vehicle. So a lot of times you stop these college kids, you know, do an inspection, you'll ask them for their medical certificate, and they'll give you their Blue Cross Blue Shield card. So I'm assuming most people here, and I realize a lot of you probably, you know, you don't need the medical card, but this is kind of a generic commercial vehicle CDL presentation. Talk a little bit about, glad you can make it. I think you missed the best part. We'll talk about seatbelts, a little bit of load securement, post and pre-trip inspections, the annual inspections. I also do oversee the mandatory inspection program in Minnesota. The guys that go out and you know, teach the annual inspectors how to do their job. That's kind of one of my babies. The federal definition for commercial motor vehicle: self-propelled or towed and used in interstate commerce. When the gross vehicle weight rating or the combined gross weight rating is over 10,000 pounds, or it's a bus, it transports hazmat, and requires placards. Now, the Fed definition, the interstate definition, is a little bit different than Minnesota. Minnesota's definition of a commercial motor vehicle is any vehicle used to haul, transfer passengers, property. Combined weight rating, single unit or a combination of 26,000 or more. Or it's a bus, or it transports hazmat. So basically, that transport hazmat, if you had a little VW bug and you're transporting hazmat, that's going to be deemed to be a commercial vehicle. And how we determine gross vehicle weight is, you know, on the door panel, the gross vehicle weight, what the manufacturer puts down, or the actual weight of the unit, whichever is greater. Okay? So, for instance, you know, you take that VW bug we're talking about, if a guy's hauling an elephant, obviously the gross weight that I'm going to use for the inspection is going to probably be the actual weight because it's going to be higher than what the manufacturer's rating is. And what I always stress to my guys too, make sure that you're using pounds and not kilograms, because it does make a difference when you're trying to add up the numbers. Required paperwork, normally, other than government entities, CAP card, proof of insurance, and make sure it's current. You know, I don't need to look at the last 8, years worth of insurance paperwork. Just give me the one that covers the day that we're doing the inspection. Driver's daily inspection report from the previous day, the driver's license, health card. Speaking of driver's license, that's a sign of a good diet. And somebody's weight on that driver's license is actual what the guy weighs. That's a sign that he's on a good diet. And I do got to say, that comment I made about talking to my daughter, there is one individual in this group who knows how to get a hold of my wife. So, word to the wise, keep your mouth shut. Don't point you out. Okay, you need a CDL. Okay, personal vehicles, they may require a CDL. If you got a hankering to take, your girlfriend out on a date and you want to drive a dump truck on the date, if it's over 26,000 pounds, you're going to need a CDL. Okay, state law does not indicate commercial motor vehicle, it just basically it goes by the weight. These vehicles, obviously, you can use a Class D. You got your recreational vehicle there, fire trucks, passenger car, and this is probably under 26,000 pounds. And everybody knows the different classes of driver's licenses. The Class C, you're going to need that for any Class D vehicle that transports hazmat, or it's a school bus designed to transport 15 or more fuels, including the driver with a school bus endorsement. Class D, any single unit with a gross vehicle weight rating is over 26,000 pounds, and they can tow a trailer up to 10,000 pounds. Or it's a vehicle that's designed to transport 16 or more people, including the driver with a passenger endorsement. Class A, basically you can haul anything. You need a CDL on this combination if the trailer is 10,000 and the truck is 26. The answer is no, because the truck is not over 26, the trailer is not over 10, so he's good with a B. CDL endorsements and restrictions. How many people here have endorsements or restrictions on their CDLs? So I'm sure everybody here is familiar with what these letters mean. You know, the T for the doubles and triples, passenger endorsement, tank vehicles, hazmat, and the X is the hazmat and the tank. And if you don't get this air brake training, you're going to be possibly restricted to no air brake vehicles. Just know that how will your CDL be affected by violations that an individual has, and what happens in your personal vehicle. What can that do to your CDL? It used to be that what went on in the passenger car stayed in the passenger car. Whatever went on in the commercial vehicle, that's when it affected your CDL. That changed. Offensive committed and revocation imposed on or after August 1st of 2005 while operating a commercial vehicle, and violations that occurred on or after August 1st, 2005 while operating a vehicle that is not a commercial vehicle. When they passed this law, when George Bush passed this regulation, he retroed it back to this date. And I got probably close to a dozen phone calls from individuals who had gotten popped. They had CDLs, they're driving passenger cars. They got popped for DWIs, pled guilty, they did their 90-day revocation, got their license back. But when they passed this regulation, when they retroed it back to this date, they got a letter saying, hey, by the way, you owe us 9 more months revocation on your license. And they're like, what? I've had my license back for 3 months. So just know that what goes on, and it's not like Vegas, what goes on in Vegas stays in Vegas. Whatever goes on in a passenger car can have an effect on your CDL. For a first conviction or refusal to be tested while operating a commercial vehicle or a non-commercial vehicle, a person required to have a CDL and a CDL holder must be disqualified from operating a CMV. And we got some violations here. Number one, being under the influence of alcohol, according to state law, you're lose your CDL for a year. We've had people at MnDOT in St. Cloud here that having a CDL is a requirement for them to hold their job. You know, go out on the weekend and, you know, they get popped. If they can't have a CDL, they don't have a job no more. It also happened at the school district where my wife worked at. Being under the influence of a controlled substance, lose a CDL for a year. Having an alcohol concentration of 0.04 or greater while operating a CMV, lose it for a year. Or if a person refuses to take a test, they lose it for a year. Leaving the scene of an accident, you lose the CDL for a year. Use the vehicle in the commission of a felony. You know, it could be criminal vehicle operation, hit and run, whatever. Or driving the CMV when a result of prior convictions, committed operating CMV, the driver's CDL is revoked, suspended, canceled, they're disqualified from operating the CMV. Or causing a fatality through a negligent operation of the CMV, including but not limited to the crime in a motor vehicle, manslaughter, homicide by motor vehicle, or negligent homicide. For a first conviction or refusal to be tested while operating a CMV, transporting hazmat, it's a little bit different. You'll see that with the hazmat issues, the same violations we just talked about, if you're out on hazmat, you're going to lose that CDL for 3 years. Same thing here with the ones we just talked about. For a second conviction or refusal to be tested in a separate incident of any combination of offenses in that table we just looked at, whether you're operating a CMV or not, a person required to have a CDL and the CDL holder must be disqualified from operating the CDL or the CMV for life on a second conviction. Now there's an asterisk there under life because if they're saying here that life means 10 years. So after 10 years, if a guy, you know, minds his P's and Q's and does all the right things, they can reapply for a CDL after 10 years. Using the vehicle in the commission of a felony during manufacturing, distributing, or dispensing a controlled substance, so life basically means life. You don't get a CDL no more. Okay, when we talk about serious traffic violations, that can also affect your CDL, whether or not you're in a commercial vehicle or in a passenger vehicle. Second conviction of a serious offense that's listed here. Within the 3-year period, you lose it for 60 days. A third and subsequent conviction, you lose it for 120 days. Serious traffic offense, what they consider to be a serious traffic offense, speeding excessively involving any speed of 15 miles an hour or more above the posted limit. So really, I mean, you see that quite a bit. So it's not, you know, it's not a very high threshold. Driving recklessly is defined in state or local law, but basically the willful, wanton disregard for the safety of individuals. Basically, you know, you're intending to drive in that manner. Improper or erratic lane changes. Okay, somebody was talking in the hallway. We saw that the other day. Trooper was going in the left lane. The guy pulling the trailer. All of a sudden, darted out, changed lanes. Didn't see the trooper. Forced the trooper off, almost into the ditch. That's improper and erratic traffic lane change. And I'm sure when the trooper got the guy stopped, he probably added a few more words. Following the vehicle ahead too closely. Okay, and I don't know if you guys are familiar with this or not, but in Minnesota, there is a state statute that states any vehicle, commercial vehicle, pulling another unit, they basically have to stay back like 500 feet. Just know that, I mean, obviously in the city of St. Cloud, okay, that's a little tough. Okay, a little tough navigating around St. Cloud, period. I'm just kidding. I get stuck in the roundabouts and start telling. Serious traffic violation, violating any state or local law relating to motor vehicle traffic control. patrol, other than a parking violation, so stop sign, stop light, whatever. That is deemed to be a serious traffic violation. Driving a CMV without getting a CDL, which one of my guys is out this morning. He came on early, got a call of some individual that driving a truck does not have a CDL, so he's out there this morning trying to find this individual. So that's a serious traffic violation. Also, driving a CMV without your CDL in possession. Okay, make sure you always have that with you. There's an asterisk there too that basically states that if you do bring your CDL to court, whatever, you're still going to get fined, but that will not be a violation that will show up. So it will not be, show up as a serious violation. It's kind of like when you're operating a passenger car, there is a violation for no DL in possession. If somebody's cited for that, they bring their driver's license to the courthouse. There's no fine. So kind of similar to that. Driving the CMV without the proper class of endorsement. Violating any state or local law regarding the texting while driving. OMG. Okay, you're also going to lose your driver's license. This is just common knowledge. For a normal driver's license, you lose it for 4 moving violations in a 12-month period, or 5 moving violations in a 24-month period. So, just a word to the wise, you might want to pass it on to family members. It's also a good thing, a lot of times people, they wonder why we get so concerned about wrong addresses on DLs. When somebody does get a lot of violations like this, and they've moved several times, the post office does not forward those revocation or suspension notices. So a lot of times we deal with people that they're suspended, they don't know it, because they have moved and did change their address on their DL. So make sure you do that. And also, I've been on some fatality scenes where I have a driver's license of a deceased individual that, they're telling me on the DL they might live in Sauk Rapids, when in reality they live in Royalton. So it's a lot easier to have the current address on the DL. DWI, the DWI laws, you don't know about the 04 and the 08, and I could ask right now, and I get people raising their hands both ways when I, bring up, if you're driving a passenger car with a CDL, what's the limit? I'll get hands raised both ways. Basically, you have to go by what the vehicle is being operated. So, if you have a CDL, and you're driving a Ford Pinto, you're losing. That threshold for DWI is going to be 08, just like anybody else, even though you have a CDL. Okay? But if you're driving a commercial vehicle, anything over 26,000 pounds, then that threshold drops to 04. Okay? And I don't know about you guys, but when I make my own drinks at home, and it probably doesn't take very much to get to an 04. But you also have to remember, there's a lot of times when I'm working, I'll drive around St. Cloud, Sartell, and local establishments and stuff, and I'll see, construction vehicles and trailers parked there, and I'm hoping when these guys are having lunch, they're just having lunch, because even though the threshold for the DWI, is 0.08 on a normal vehicle, and it's 04 on anything over 10,000 pounds, there is a regulation, 0 tolerance, anything over 10. Single unit or combination, anything over 10, 0 tolerance, you can't have any amount in your system whatsoever. That's a separate violation than the DWI. And then you're put out of service for 24 hours. The only alcohol that's allowed in a vehicle is obviously like in the Budweiser trucks or whatever, they can have it. And I heard that, it pissed me off, because I thought I hit the jackpot one day. Drug and alcohol testing, I don't do any of this. I guess I do test the alcohol when I see a commercial. One of those commercials, Real Men of Genius. My neighbor's got a CD that has all of those. I think he drives a Pinto too. Anyway, basically, drug and alcohol, if you're required to have a CDL, you got to be involved in drug and alcohol testing program. And I know they have, I think it's Midwest Compliance in Sauk Rapids here. I know they participate in that. I'm not sure of any other entity. Any questions on that at all? Good. Medical cards, okay? There's a medical card. of our school bus supervisor in the state patrol. I can tell right now that his is expired. I'll have to get on it. I'm assuming this is an old slide. One thing that we come across in, with med cards, first of all, look at those, for the expiration. So many times that people that are expired and they don't know it. Look, it's for me, I look at it all the time. It's kind of like license plates. I know when my license plate's expired because I'm in the job. Other people don't, but make sure you check that stuff. Some people will, because, it's normally good for 2 years. Okay, so if I stop somebody and I see, it was issued in 2009, and then on the bottom, the expiration date, it looked like it was 11, but the 11's kind of crossed out to a 2. That makes it a 3-year card. That tells me that some guy was, was doing some hard work or something. Okay. Sometimes your doctor will want you on a 1-year card if you have medical issues, high blood pressure, diabetes or something like that. Your doctor wants you back in there every year. I was doing an inspection a couple years ago at Gatenport Scale down by Elk River. I came across an individual. He got a 1-year med card, and it was expired by like 8 months. And I asked him, I said, your med card's expired. No, he said it should be a 2-year card. He said, I've been through inspections and nobody told me about it. I said, you don't have high cholesterol or blood pressure, diabetes? Nope, nothing like that. I said, okay, well, I said, I'll note it, but I'll check with your company, I'll get a hard copy, and I'll take care of it that way. So I said, why don't you just sit with your little truck here and I'll be with you in a little bit. So I'm typing my inspection, all of a sudden this guy comes back, and I don't like when people come back to my car, when you tell them to stay in the vehicle, you get a little itchy because, all the training and stuff, it's bad. So I'm kind of like on edge a little bit. The guy comes back and he says, I do have to tell you though, he said, I take Viagra. I'm like, well, thanks for the info. It has nothing to do with your 1-year med card, but as it turns out, the doctor just screwed up. Okay? Thanks for the information. Probably a little too much information. So check your dates on those med cards. Also, what we see a lot of times, a lot of people, they have LASIK surgery done, so they don't have to wear glasses anymore. If you have LASIK done to correct your vision, and you don't need your glasses to drive, make sure you get your driver's license changed over and your medical card, because what I have to go by is what's on that DL or the med card. Even if, I've had guys that have letters from the doctor saying that so-and-so had LASIK surgery or vision, blah, blah, blah. I have to go by what's on the med card or the driver's license. So if you have LASIK surgery, get the med card and the driver's license changed over. If you apply for the duplicate DL, and correct the medical certificate. Wearing corrective lenses. This individual got stopped for inspection, and he was not wearing his prescription lenses. So it's not a service violation. You can't leave until you correct the violation. Well, this guy happens to be a scuba diver. He had prescription scuba lenses. So he slapped those on, and they're lenses, and they're prescription. Just kidding. Log book, you're probably familiar with the 100-mile exemption for CDL holders, 150 for non-CDL holders, the hours of duty, 60 hours in a 7-day period, 78. I'm assuming most of you guys know about this. A lot of this probably doesn't apply to you. Another thing you want to hit on is the inattentive distracted driving. There's a big push on that right now. That is texting and cell phones. Distracted driving basically is any non-driving activity a person engages that has potential to distract him or her from primary tasks of driving and increases the risk of crashing. Some of the types of distractions are visual, taking your eyes off the road, looking at the crops or whatever. Taking your hands off the wheel. We get calls all the time in St. Croix, people on 94, where they're driving for knees, they're working on a laptop, or they're pulling their nose hairs out. Keep your hands on the wheel. And then just cognitive, taking your mind off what you're doing. Kind of like me this morning when I signed on, thinking, oh, Christ, I got to go to St. Croix. Actually, I don't mind doing this. Biggest group I ever talked to is 1,800 kids at Bemidji High School. So this is small potatoes for that. Detection. Texting is the most alarming because it involves all three types. It's the cognitive, taking your hands and eyes off the wheel. And the easiest way for us to find these texting violations is I'll be sitting in traffic at a red light, the light goes green, the car in front of me is sitting there, and the person's looking down like this. Obviously they're texting. So very easy to see. So it's prohibited, okay, obviously. Cell phones, according to NHTSA, cell phones are the #1 cause of distracted-related crashes. And getting back to, we'll talk about this a little bit, research, there's 28% more chance of being involved in a crash than your cell phone. And drivers who use cell phones are 4 more times likely to be in a crash, resulting in injuries. Driver on a phone exhibits slower reaction times, great impairment than a driver who has a blood alcohol concentration of 0.08. So I guess we're trying to say that you'd rather run into someone that's been drinking instead of someone put on the cell phone. Okay. As of January 3rd, 2012, no use of the handheld cell phones in the CMD. Can't dial more than one number. When you dial, you got to do the speed dial thing. And my question was, so if you got like an emergency, you're just supposed to dial 9 and hope it's a small emergency? They call 911, call local law enforcement officers or medical, that's fine.
Municipal drivers have some variations. So as of January 3, no use of handheld phones.
I'll get to what you, I think I know what I was asked that in the hallway. But they can use a Bluetooth, the ear, whatever. Okay, I'll address your question. I'll bet you your question right now. Based on where they put the cell phone use in Fed regs, political subdivisions, that regulation does not apply to them.
And that's a good one.
Okay, that does not. Okay, I just don't like to advertise it because I just don't like to advertise it. Okay, so the cell phone, political subdivisions, because of where they put it in federal regulations, does not apply to them. However, the texting, that is a state statute. State statute applies to everybody, so that would apply to political subdivisions. Okay, I knew that was going to come up. I get calls on that all the time, and I got to ask in the hallway.
Does that have to do the same as if you got a CDL in your personal vehicle? Then,
No, that's totally different. Actually, the guy that asked me the question, they were carrying down a banner here, and he said, "Do you have a knife?" I said, "Yeah." So I gave it to him. He took it by the blade. Is he here? I went to the next group, and I'm like, "Right, you don't need to be in my session. You got to be on a safe weapons handling." But yeah, I knew that was going to come up because I'm getting tons of calls on that. So good, bad, or different. I imagine I have my reasons for not wanting to be exempt, but I'm sure you guys I've talked to a lot of people that there are reasons they want to be. So just based on what they put in the Fed rate. Other distracting things, eating and drinking, the grooming, the guys, we get that. Women primping or guys actually pulling nose hairs out of their nose. So, reading, including the apps, we get that all the time. The guys with their knees. Or, they're playing the latest gadget, they got in their car, portable electronic devices. A lot of times you can see those because they're driving. Taking the radio station, the CD or MP3 player, or, talking back and forth to the passengers that are in the car. Some of the less obvious distractions, someone that's sick. Okay, there is a federal regulation that we deal with a lot, driving with it while ill. I don't know if you remember that situation down by Albertville. I think it was a Target tractor trailer that went into the creek or swamp, whatever it was. One of my guys took care of that, and that bottom line is that guy was sick. He was, coughing and hacking and taking NyQuil, not DayQuil, and just went on a coughing jag and almost passed out. That's what happened with him. And he told the guy, he said, I know I should have stopped in Wilma because I wasn't feeling right then. Daydreaming, especially like next week when the weather's going to be really warm. I'm going to Florida on spring break on the 24th, and I'm not saying I wish you guys bad weather up here, but it's going to piss me off if I'm in Florida and just or dealing with strong emotions, okay? Your cat died or something. This is a crash in the metro. Happened a few years back. Driver of the truck was on a cell phone. Obviously resulted in a fatality. Make sure you do wear your seatbelt. Before the state of Minnesota passed the primary seatbelt law, it was primary for commercial vehicle operators. So, so we were able to enforce it, but now it's kind of a moot point. It applies to everybody. I have a brother-in-law that drives for a garbage hauler in Malacca. He's been stopped 3 times for not wearing his belt. And the first thing he does is puke out my name in the back. Well, the first 2 guys said, hey, knucklehead, put your seatbelt on. Third guy, when ran his driver's record, you see there was 2 previous events on him that he'd been warned for not wearing his belt, so the third guy tagged him. Good for you, I applaud you. So my brother-in-law said, oh, whatever to do, I said, it's so easy to tell. You wear those neon green shirts, and you can see whether you got the belt on or not. Well, I'm gonna get a new invention created. He said, I'm gonna get one of those neon shirts. I'm gonna take some duct tape and stripe it down. So I said, dude, you grew up in Onamia. Knowing you, you're gonna put that stripe going the wrong way. Actually, his company, what they require them to do is at the beginning of their shift, they have to turn in all their personal cell phones, put them in a box, and then they're issued company cell phones they can use for work purposes only. And then at the end of the day, they get their personal cell phones back. Seatbelt exemption: a person who's actually engaged in work that requires a person to get in and out of the vehicle at frequent intervals, and they don't go over 25 miles an hour. There is an exemption for them in the seatbelt regulation. Click their ticket. Carrier identification. This is probably, I was just asked this yesterday. Somebody asked me how big do those DOT letters have to be, and basically you have to see them 50 feet. And it's got to be in contrasting colors, so don't put white labels on a white door. And I only bring that up because it does happen. Okay, obviously not required for government vehicles. Tax exempt plates. You have to have the name of the political subdivision on the side. 10 minutes. Okay, weight regulations. I think we covered that, didn't we? Registered weight, gross weight, axle weight, failure weight. And I don't know how much you guys deal with this stuff, but it's part of the presentation, so we'll cover it. Registered weight, maximum gross weight of a vehicle based on the tax paid, which, probably government entities, don't worry about it. But it's got to be at least 1.25 times the empty weight of the vehicle. We deal with this a lot of times. An individual will come in to register a pickup or a truck, whatever, and they'll try to register it at less than 1.25 times the empty weight of the vehicle because it's cheaper. So they're actually registering it less than what the thing actually weighs. And then, they're surprised at the roadside when we weigh them and they're overweight. Gross weight, as we talked about a little earlier, maximum weight of vehicle and load based on actual spacings. Axle weight is a single axle. With all those wheels, single axles and whose centers are 40 inches apart or less. If it's less than 40 inches, it's deemed to be a single axle. Tandems are 2 consecutive axles whose centers are spaced more than 40 inches, but not more than 96 inches apart. Those would be a tandem. The tridem is 3 axles spaced within 9 feet or less. I don't know how much you guys deal with this stuff, but I know we've had some, I've dealt with some commercial haulers who have had extra axles added onto the vehicle to make them tri-items, but they didn't meet the requirement for the 9 feet or less, so they're not deemed to be tri-items. Basically, it's another single and a dual. Tire weight, basically, it's tire width means manufacturer's width, or the width of the widest part of the tire. Tire weights, and these, my guys check this quite a bit. Tire weights can't exceed 500 pounds on a tire other than a steer, or on a steer, 600 pounds per inch of the tire's width, or the manufacturer's weighted tire load, whichever is less. They always go by whichever is less. There are some exemptions from the width, height, and length provisions in state statute. And also for you guys, the ones that do any work with engaging snow and ice removal, you're exempt from the weight requirement. I get calls on that periodically. Load securement, just basically, I'm sure you guys are well versed on load securement. Okay, basically, the load's got to be secured so it can't, fall off or drift off or move. And crap like this. Okay. I know how many calls I've gotten over my career of motorcyclists that have gotten knocked in the noggin, rocks and stuff falling off. You see that these here. Loose chains, make sure you secure those. Okay. Also, make sure the tarping rules. You familiar with that 2x6 rule? If I can measure 2 feet in or 6 inches down and touch the load, it's got to be tarped. Okay. Yep, because that's the state statute. So, and a lot of times it happens, you get these loaders, they'll load too far to one side here, so it'll be cracked up to here. Over here, there's nothing. I had a guy down by Princeton one time, a co-worker, it was granite chunks. He was loaded that way, so it was really hot out that day, and so he told the guy before he moved, he didn't have a tarp, so he had to move it so he couldn't touch it 6 inches down. So he's up there shoveling, and it was so hot. I was standing on the shady side of the truck because I burned easy. So I'm standing there. The guy's up there shoveling, he is just wringing wet sweat, and he says, "How much more of this I got to do?" That's good. Also, they talk about, you guys probably deal with this, the crap that hangs up. Make sure you clean out your sideboards and the tail boards and stuff. Okay. Yep. You're looking for that rock hanging out here. Strap, there's no head protection there, but the thing with this here is a brick laying here. I found out that this company was involved in a fatality down in southern Minnesota where a block came off and hit a vehicle and killed a child. And this inspection, I was told, occurred like 2 weeks after that incident. So obviously didn't quite get it. Okay, littering. Basically, it's the drop, and I just dealt with this yesterday. There was an individual hauling potato peelings out into the field, and when he comes back, he's dripping a bunch of goo and crap all over the road. But I'm a fireman, I'm exempt, but when you look at the littering statute, anything that can be deposited on the road that can cause a hazard, that applies to everybody. Pre-trip. Okay, you guys do the pre-trip, the government entities do the pre-trips. Okay. A lot of stuff people are not required to do, but they just do it because, like, I know DOT, they want their guys to have med cards, even though they're not required to. Just, be set, before you start, make sure the driver's vehicle's in safe operation, look at the last inspection. Any defects that were listed, make sure they're corrected. And if it was corrected, sign off on it. You see right here? There's some defects if you want to get corrected before you hit the road. That's right. That looks like my brother-in-law. And the post trip at the end of the day, list any defects that were discovered, and then you sign it. And the carrier's got to maintain those for 90 days. And these are the things at minimum that got to be on there. service brakes, parking brakes, steering, lights, coupling devices, horn. Be surprised how many horns don't work. Windshield wipers and washers. Be surprised how many washer systems don't have the fluid in there. Rear view mirrors, tires, wheels and rims. And then the emergency equipment, the triangles, fire extinguisher and the spare fuses. And there is no set form that you have to use. You can come up with your own form, a lot of companies do. Just make sure it has required information, and a lot of times people add stuff that they want on it. Okay. One thing I want to touch on before we quit here. Yeah,
As far as horns go,
yep.
which is the legal horn? The electric horn or the air horn?
All you have to have is one working.
It does. Okay.
Yep. We look at it as long as you have one. That happens quite frequently. You know, this one don't work, but this one does.
Yeah.
You know. Tires. Watch your tires because this tire is fully inflated at 110 pounds per square. Okay. This one's at 50. Anything that's less than half the PSI that's on the side of the tire is considered to be a flat tire, and it's not a service violation. So watch that. We see a lot of it on duals, on like dump trucks and stuff. This vehicle here, this combination, they look the same. This one's at 130. That one's at 60. You can't really see it, but it's a flat tire, and it's not a service violation. So make sure the PSI is above the half. Just make sure they're not overly inflated, so when you start running like that, you know, this is either overinflated, they're loaded too heavy, or whatever. That's what my guys use for indications when they decide which vehicles they want to look at. And obviously, you need a little more tread than that. Steer, 430 seconds. And non-steer, 230 seconds. And I think we'll probably cut it at that. So, you guys, I hope you took down my phone number. Any questions, please call. I'd be more than happy to, if I don't know the answer, I'll surely make up a good one for you.